Hello everyone, I'm Mr. Green Cap. It started with a single unfinished game of Mahjong. The result? A mother in a bright red wedding dress crawling out of her grave to feast on raw meat in the mountains. That is the price of a moment's negligence. This story comes from an anonymous archive. To preserve the original feeling, I will narrate it from the witness's first-person perspective. So, turn off the lights, lock your doors, and let's open the file. It was the winter of 2003. I was 17 years old, having just graduated high school. I'd returned to my rural home in Sichuan for the holidays. Our village is a typical, traditional mountain settlement. The houses aren't arranged in neat rows. Instead, they are scattered across the mountainside. Our village sector had only about a dozen households in total. Our families had lived here for generations. We looked up and saw the same faces every single day. This incident happened right next door at the home of my classmate. Let's call him Little Dai. Little Dai's mother and I shared the same surname, so there was a bit of distant relation there. According to village seniority, I even had to call her sister. She was a woman of few words, but her hands were incredibly skillful. She kept their home organized and spotless. She and Little Dai's father were known as the model couple of the village. Although they weren't rich, money was tight. They lived in harmony. Back then, the village infrastructure couldn't compare to today. The electricity and lighting were particularly poor. During the day, everyone was busy working in the fields, feeding pigs and chickens, chopping wood, carrying water. The village had some life to it. But because there were no streetlights, as soon as night fell, the entire village would plunge into complete silence and absolute dead darkness. That kind of darkness in winter is especially unnerving. When the wind blew or rain fell, the temperature in the mountains would drop sharply. The cold wind would whistle through the bamboo forests and miscellaneous trees, making strange whoo-whoo sounds that echoed outside the window all night long. It was enough to make your skin crawl. We relied entirely on a single high-voltage line pulled in from the township. The line ran on massive concrete poles along the mountain road. These poles were exceptionally thick and stood over 10 meters high, standing lonely on the desolate grassy slopes. Because the mountain terrain was complex, the lines were stretched very long. To make maintenance easier, the power station had divided the line into several sections, with a switch every few kilometers. This meant that if a section had a problem, you had to notify the dispatch above to send someone to cut the switch for that specific section. You could only climb the pole after confirming the power was off. If you touched a live wire, you were dead instantly. At the time, Little Dai's father was the maintenance worker assigned by the township government to fix high-voltage lines. He was considered a skilled technician in our area. Everyone greeted him politely. He always walked with a heavy bunch of keys and a pair of old-fashioned iron pliers hanging from his belt, clinking clatter-clatter as he walked. That sound was his identity, a sound of capability and responsibility. I remember the day of the accident clearly. The weather was atrocious. Dark clouds covered the sky all day. By afternoon, a gale began to blow. The wind was truly evil. It snapped a massive cypress tree in the neighboring village. The trunk fell squarely onto the high-voltage line, snapping it. Little Dai's father was eating dinner when he got the call from the township. They told him to hurry over and fix that section. He didn't say a word. He put down his bowl and chopsticks, put on his thick, stiff work uniform, shouldered his tool bag, and walked out. Who could have known that once he walked out that door, he would never come back? The tragedy was a mix of procedure and negligence. Little Dai's father followed the rules and contacted the person in charge of that section to cut the power. But the disaster lay in the fact that the staff member responsible for the switch was playing Mahjong. He thought to himself, "I'll just finish this last hand, then go cut the power." He gambled on luck. It was that single moment of hesitation, that specific delay, that cost a life. Little D's father assumed the power had been cut on schedule. He began to climb the concrete pole. The pole was slippery and the wind was howling. He climbed up, step by step. Just as he reached about 2/3 of the way up, still a distance from the wire end, the tragedy happened. Because the power hadn't been cut in time, the powerful high-voltage arc instantly sucked him in. With high voltage like that passing through the body, there's no chance to struggle. In less than 2 minutes, he stopped moving. His clothes burned away, his skin scorched. The entire person was basically carbonized, a black, charred lump hanging in midair, emitting black smoke. Someone behind him frantically called the other station section. They realized a major accident had occurred and hurriedly cut the power, but it was all too late. Little Dai's father was still young. This shouldn't have happened. Who could have imagined that because of a single hand of Mahjong, a man would be separated from his family forever? No amount of crying or screaming could bring him back. Although there were usually petty squabbles in the village, when something this big happened, everyone was warm-hearted. The production team helped handle the funeral. It was only a few days before the new year. It should have been a time of joy, preparing New Year's goods. Instead, Little Dai's house hung white couplets. Little D cried until he fainted. But what left the deepest impression on me was his mother. From the moment her husband's body was brought back, she barely made a sound. She sat on a wooden stool in the main hall like a wooden statue, staring blankly at the coffin. People spoke to her, but she didn't answer. Her eyeballs didn't even turn. We all thought she'd gone stupid from grief. Who knew she was holding on to a resolve to not live anymore? That year, the entire production team had no taste for the holidays. Everyone tried to avoid walking past Little Dai's door, afraid of the scene, afraid to hear the crying of the widow and orphan. However, not long after the father died, on the dawn of the first day of Lunar New Year, Little Dai's mother couldn't take the blow. She hanged herself at home. That morning, just as the sky was turning a hazy gray, my family was gathered around the table for breakfast. Suddenly, there was a frantic banging on our courtyard gate. We opened it to find Little Dai, hair messy, clothes half worn. His face was as white as paper, his whole body shaking. He cried out, "Mom, my mom hanged herself." We couldn't believe it. My mother dropped her bowl. Smash! It shattered on the floor. I was young and reacted fast. I threw down my chopsticks and ran. My parents followed close behind. We rushed into Little Dai's house. The doors to the main hall were wide open. Our rural houses were the old-fashioned wooden frame style, with a very thick central beam. Little Dai's mother was hanging from that beam. She was wearing the bright red ladies' suit she had worn for her wedding years ago. On her head, she wore a large red silk flower. Her eyes were bulging out, staring dead ahead. Her tongue protruded long and purple, strictly bitten by her teeth. That image was too terrifying. My legs went soft, and I almost knelt on the ground, covering my eyes. Soon, the whole production team knew. People rushed over and scrambled to get her down, but she had been dead for a long time. The body was cold through. Father just gone, mother suicides. Everyone lamented how tragic Little Dai's family was, but beyond sympathy, a deeper fear began to spread through the crowd. The old people in the village saw her appearance and shook their heads incessantly. Everyone knows the biggest taboo for the dead is wearing red, especially for a hanging suicide. Red dress hanging creates the heaviest grievance. The spirit will not rest. And she didn't just wear red. She wore a big red flower. This is the most vicious way to die. The faces of the onlookers changed, but scared as they were, the team decided to help. Every household contributed money to hire a feng shui master for Little D. The master selected a spot in Little Dai's own fields, saying the feng shui was good, and had her buried there. We thought that being laid to rest would end it. Who knew that exactly on the 7th night after her burial, the returning night, things would start happening. My family had a big white dog called Da Bai. He was usually very gentle, wagging his tail at everyone. But that night, around 11 p.m., Dabai suddenly acted strange. He refused to go into his kennel. He stood in the yard, barking madly at the bamboo forest behind Little Dai's house. And that bark was different. Usually a dog's bark is crisp. This was a woo-woo-woo trembling sound, like extreme fear. He barked while backing away, hair standing on end, tail tucked tight between his legs. It wasn't just my dog. Every dog in the production team was barking that night. The sound echoed through the empty valley, making everyone panic. The old people said dogs have spirit eyes. They can see things people can't. They were seeing something unclean coming back. Around midnight, Little Dai, alone in his empty house, became too terrified. He ran to my door, asking my mother to come keep him company. My mother was scared too, so she dragged me along. The three of us went to his house. Around 1 or 2 a.m., the barking suddenly stopped. The silence was deadlier than the noise. Then, in his kitchen, the box bellows started to go click-clack on its own. Then the thud of a knife chopping vegetables on the board. Mixed in were muttering voices, not loud, but indistinct. You couldn't tell what they were saying. I couldn't stand the torture. I decided to look. The rural night without lights is pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of your face. I was scared to death. I could hear my own heartbeat. I stood up, shivering, turned on the light to embolden myself, and walked slowly to the kitchen. Everything was normal. Nothing had moved. Little Dai and my mom heard it too. To comfort them, I lied and said it was nothing. But that was just the calm before the storm. From that night on, the village knew no peace. Every night past midnight, the dogs would bark. Then, the dogs started dying. One by one, their deaths were strange. Either internal organs emptied out or drained of blood until the body was flat like a sheet of paper. Things got more evil. Once the dogs were gone, the chickens, ducks, and geese started dying. Same way, sucked dry, organs missing. Every morning, someone found their livestock slaughtered. The atmosphere was oppressive. People locked their doors before dark. Kids weren't allowed out. The old people whispered. Little Dee's mother didn't leave clean. Red dress, red flower. She's turning into the legendary Mao Jiang, hairy corpse. Little Dee was too scared to stay home and moved into my house. Just as panic was seizing everyone, I had to make a night trip. It was the day after the Lantern Festival. I don't know what I was thinking, but I went to my uncle's house in another village for dinner. To get back, I had to cross a hill. It wasn't a big mountain, but the path was a winding sheep trail, flanked by dense shrubs and cypress woods. Dinner ran late. My uncle tried to persuade me to stay, saying our village wasn't safe lately. But I worried about my mom and Little Dai alone at home. They were both timid, so I insisted on going back. My uncle gave me a flashlight. Back then, it was the old battery kind, yellow light, couldn't shine far. I started walking. The flat road was fine, but as soon as I started climbing the hill, the environment changed. It was dead silent. I could see old graves by the roadside. I kept telling myself, it's fine. Even if I meet Little Dee's mom, we are relatives. She won't hurt me. But my feet walked faster and faster. Halfway down the hill, I felt someone staring at me. In Sichuan mountains, the trees are dense and grass is tall. Hide a person there and you'd never see them. I whipped my head around. I saw something moving in the grass. Rustle, scritch. My first thought was a rat or beast. I gathered my guts and shined the flashlight at the sound. The beam swept across the shaking grass. I saw the grass part. A black shape was moving. I squinted to see. In that instant, the thing slowly raised its head. It was a human head, but the hair was wet, messy, plastered to the face. The most conspicuous thing was, on that head, a big red flower was tied crookedly. My legs turned to jelly. My brain screamed, "Ghost!" I couldn't move. The head slowly turned toward me. It was a face covered in black fuzz, dense hair obscuring the features. The mouth was ripped wide open, corners full of blood. Under the flashlight, I saw jagged teeth turning outward. I realized it was holding prey, a wild pheasant. It had been thrashing, which alerted me. The monster snapped its head back to bite the pheasant. Borrowing that split second of distraction, I ran. I ran like my life depended on it. My lungs felt like they were exploding. I fell countless times, breaking my arm, covered in dirt. I reached the village chief's house and collapsed. I saw her. I saw little Dai's mum. She's alive. She's eating chickens on the mountain. The chief was shocked. He knew things were weird, but hearing a dead person was alive. He tried to disbelieve, but seeing my broken arm and terror, he knew I wasn't lying. He decided to check the grave the next day. Since there were oil prospectors in the village, he asked a few engineers to come along for courage. They arrived at the grave. They found a huge hole behind the mound. They dug it open. The coffin lid had been thrown aside. The stone slab was missing, and inside lay little Dai's mother. Her body was covered in blood, blood mixed with dirt, dried into a crust. The most terrifying thing, her face and hands were covered in black hair, just like human hair. Her eyes were scarlet red, wide open, dead but not resting. The engineer said, "Burn it now. This can't be kept." In our remote village, we didn't have gasoline, so they gathered dry wood, piled it on the corpse, and lit a massive fire. After that, the rumors flew for miles. Not long after, I passed my college exams and moved to Chongqing, leaving that life behind. Years later, I heard the old chief say that the engineers found oil under that grave. The official explanation was that the corpse mutated due to special soil quality and oil gas reactions, creating the hairy corpse legend. But in my heart, the thing that chills me isn't the hairy monster eating raw meat in the grass. It's that unfinished game of Mahjong. Ghosts may be ethereal, but karma is real. Little Dee's father died from a moment of casual waiting. His mother died of unbearable despair. Sometimes I think, that red dress and that resentment, perhaps she didn't hate heaven or earth. She hated that 1 minute of human indifference. People fear ghosts, but ghosts never hurt me. People say hearts are kind, but a human heart, for the sake of a game, ended 2 lives. Remember, if you see a bright red dress in the dark mountains, do not light your flashlight, just run. That is where the fire ends. The monster in the mountains was burned to ash. But the monster in the human heart, that is harder to kill. A single moment of negligence created a demon. A single game of Mahjong destroyed a family. So, respect the rules. Respect the dead, and remember, if you see a bright red dress in the dark mountains, do not light your flashlight. Just run. I am Mr. Greencap. See you next time.